Today I'm going to do another lady of jazz who, just like the Baroness, is not a musician, but she is a major force in the growth of jazz worldwide, especially in New York in the 40s. Her name at birth was Lorraine Stein. She was born in Newark, New Jersey, and raised in a strict Jewish family. She first went to the Newark School for the Arts, which is where people like Wayne Shorter went. All the, how should I say this, cutting edge jazz musicians of her day and after went to that school because that was the place to be if you really wanted to be a very creative artist. Her family decided that she needed to go to a little bit more conservative school, so they moved her midway through her high school career. There she found some friends that had also been forcefully removed by their parents, and they got a little group. She called them her pals. And their secret was, on Sunday afternoons, they would find a way into New York, baby. And they go down on 7th Avenue to this little place that had previously been called the Golden Triangle. But by this time, it's known as the Village Vanguard. And they went there because on Sundays they had these jam sessions and impromptu concerts. And musicians generally don't work on Sundays. We generally sleep on Sundays, sleeping on Friday and Saturday. You know how that goes. And but the guys would come in and do Saturday afternoon concerts for whatever they could get from the door. And as Lorraine remembers, it was probably close to 50 cents. And you could see Ben Webster, and you could see Lester Young, and these great jazz legends for 50 cents on a Sunday. So that became her hangout from her high school days. As life continues, she ends up hunting the owner of the Village Vanguard. And she trapped him in his favorite hangout, which was a bakery. He loved the sweets. And she cornered him and convinced him that bringing in more jazz would be a good thing for his establishment. And she must have been quite convincing because he started bringing jazz in, sometimes as much as 3 different artists a night. And it was going great. She then checked out the fact that it was always a good vibe in the place. The audience was always enthusiastic. The musicians were having a good time. And she proposed to the owner that maybe he should partner with her then husband, who was a partner in Blue Note Records, to do live recordings at the Vanguard. Interesting idea. So Max Gordon went for it. And it was a big hit. As a matter of fact, in 1940, the great Roy Eldridge, who we'll hear about later, came to the Village and to sell out crowds every night. He had a very loyal fan base, and you will discover in a subsequent video that in 1940, Roy Eldridge was more popular as a jazz trumpeter than Louis Armstrong himself. So this guy, although most people never heard of him, that's your fault. You need to go get some recordings right now and check him out because he is a monster. He could do stuff the pop just couldn't do. And he did it brazenly. So the crowds are getting there. And at this time, she's still married to the vice president of Blue Note Records. And but she could see what the future looked like for the Vanguard. And But she went ahead and married the record executive and got this thing going on. And then as this jazz venture continued to grow, by 1949, 7 years after her first marriage, she ended up marrying Max Gordon, who was the owner of the Village Vanguard. Kind of strange how they kept it in the family like that, huh? Yeah. So she then could exert even more influence over the programming. And it became a center not just for jazz, but for small group jazz and this new music that a lot of people didn't understand, and some people even revolted against it. It was called bebop. And a lot of people were like, hey man, we don't understand that stuff. It's crazy people's music, blah, 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 but you can't stop progress. And by the mid-40s, bebop was the rage all around the world, with great musicians too, and a few strange ones. It's about that time that Lorraine decided she'd move on from her first marriage. And in 1949, she married the owner of Vanguard and became, how shall I say, the manager, especially for entertainment. All the big hitters of the day, Thelonious Monk, played there for a whole week and nobody came. And yet 6 months later, she had him booked there again to sell out crowds. That's how fast his career excelled, and how should I say this, sharp her ear was and her taste for what's next in jazz. She always knew what was next. Over time, one of the smartest things that a musician could do in order to get great record sales was to entitle their album Live at the Village Vanguard. And there were scores of artists who could not wait to make that record that said, Dizzy Gillespie, live at the Vanguard. Miles Davis, live at the Vanguard. Thelonious Monk, live at the Vanguard. All these were big selling albums, and they were also exported to Europe and around the world, so jazz is growing exponentially. And Lorraine, in the background, is affecting the growth and popularity of jazz worldwide. She ventured into causes in the 60s, like all of us did. You can say she was a peacenik. She warred against the Vietnam War. That's kind of an odd way of saying it. She protested the Vietnam War. She protested the testing of nuclear weapons. She protested all the things that would probably get her locked up today. She was definitely somewhat of a rebel, but she stuck to it. And then she did something else that may get her locked up today. She decided that she needed to stretch out even more into other artistic endeavors. So she got herself hired at the Brooklyn Museum so she could ensure that their artistic offerings were fair and not biased, and did tell the whole story, not just part of it. And she did that for a number of years. But her heart was always the Village Vanguard. She kept that going almost up until the end of her life. Her husband died, I think, Max died in the late 80s, and she was still going. As a matter of fact, she lived from 1922 to 2018, and 95 years old. And she ran the Vanguard up until the last 5 years of her life. And I'm saying personally, every day she's there, she's checking everything out. And even when she's in her 90s, she's dropping by every now and then to keep an eye on things and make sure that the musicians are being treated with respect, they're being paid well, everything is good, the audiences are always thrilled with what they're offering, and that the ownership, the management that she installed is keeping up with current trends in jazz so that the offerings at the Village Vanguard are always cutting edge. Now, because of her, the Village Vanguard continues to exist. That was her major work, although she did write a memoir on jazz, got an ASCAP award for journalism in print for that. The National Endowment for the Arts gave her an award as a supporter and advocate for jazz and jazz musicians. And later, she was given another NEA award as a jazz master. Although she couldn't play a note, she knew a lot more about jazz than a lot of people who are out there playing. So she was well respected for her commitment to this wonderful music we call jazz, for spreading the word. She was a great businesswoman. She was very, very passionate about her causes, and she would fight for what she believed in anytime. Her words on her life are simple. I'm not a musician. I'm not even a singer. I'm not an actress. I'm not a painter. I just know this music that I have always loved, and promoting it and supporting these jazz artists, that is my work of art. So how does she do? Well, here is the final verdict on that. The Village Vanguard, which became her baby, is the longest running jazz establishment in New York City. It is still open today, and you can still walk in through those same doors that Lorraine herself walked through for years and years and years right now. So if you haven't been to the Vanguard, go down there. If you want a good album, just find anything that says live from the Village Vanguard and you've got a hit. All from a little Jewish girl from Newark, New Jersey, who was not an artist, but who loved jazz music and the musicians who created it. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed that story of a really, really great warrior for jazz.